Day 3 of the April 2007 retreat in Springwater. There's so many things that have come up in meetings where to start. Let's start with this. Someone said, in a group meeting, many people there, saying things, asking things. And I'm responding. At times, I'm talking too fast. It goes too fast. The person said they can't follow. And this may not just be happening for the person who brought it up, this may be happening for others. So, rather than saying it afterwards, can we say it right then and there? I want to follow what you're saying, but you're too fast. So can you say, whoa, can you hold it for a moment? Can you go a bit slower? I need to hear that, because here things just pour forth. It's very helpful for both of us, for all of us, if somebody can say that. I know it's not easy, but I certainly won't take it wrong. On the contrary, I'm not talking to please myself, but to share something, to look at something together. It's very important to me, very essential, that we understand each other. It's hard enough, and to also be impeded by too much speed. So please say those things. You're not interrupting me. This is not. That doesn't take place. That would be an interruption if I felt attacked or hurt, but this doesn't take place. The listening space doesn't collapse because of that. I know at times I've said this in a talk myself. Am I talking too fast? I've been trying recently to talk slower. Breaks in between. So, from where is one speaking and listening? The most essential, important thing is to be here, to be present spaciously, which is not always possible. But when it is, that's the crucial thing, and that we're in touch with each other in that space of presence, of attending, listening, awareing, being here without separation. And then out of that space, it may be easier to comprehend what is being said. We talked a bit the first day about listening. It's not easy to listen when we're full of ourselves, or maybe not even consciously so. Have some personal thing going that gets in the way of listening. But how to come upon that? This is what the whole thing is about, how to come upon this conditioned, programmed mind, full of old stuff. We're so used to it. We're living with it all the time. It's so hard to become aware of it. Very hard to become aware. It's so close. It's why we talk together, listen to talks, meet, because this sort of may loosen up the hard soil, like a plow breaking up the clods, so rain and sunshine can enter, and seeds. In this connection, another comment that was made by someone, maybe it's not the connection, it just comes to mind. Somebody says, why do you walk through the hall at certain times of the day? Does it seem strange to some people? Maybe to all people, I don't know. I tried to explain it, and actually in the course of doing this work, many times I've thought of dropping that. But then when I have run it by some people, they say, don't drop that. It's a very good thing to sort of be together quietly. And this is how it is for me, to come in here without needing to talk, without needing to explain or point out, and without needing to be anything. And you're not anything either. It's so clear. Just to share the silence in some very fleeting physical proximity. At the same time, in touch with the whole hall and this beautiful land we're sitting on. Whether it's fog or rain or the stars at night and the lights of Springwater. This person a little bit humorously said, it's hard to imagine that anybody could be walking through this hall without thinking about themselves. But you don't have to believe me, but it's possible. It is entirely possible, and maybe every once in a while we need to hear this, that this is possible, to walk through this hall during a retreat and stand with people and not think. Not have or nourish images. It's possible. There's a very superficial level on which, unfortunately, we spend 99.999% of our lives. It's a level of images and personal identification with it, and then the hurt or the insecurity and praise and blame and all of that stuff. It's such a superficial level, just the top foam on the waves. Underneath there's the depth of the water. Thinking of the ocean right now. In which there's no foam, no bubbles, no waves. Maybe somebody who is an oceanographer would tell me, wait a minute, there are also waves on the bottom, so the metaphor is not quite good. But I think you know what I mean. And what this work is about is to connect on a deeper level than the foam on the bubbles or on the waves, on this agitated surface, which is so easily upset and insecure of itself. Wanting to be made sure through more bubbles and more foam, and it's not possible. The way to get sure, not sure of something, but stable, is to be at the depth. Not that the surface doesn't exist, it's there, foaming and bubbling and waving. But that other is there too. And there is a different kind of stability that does not depend on people liking me or feeding back to me. I'm not saying anything against like and feedback. It's wonderful things on the surface. So, does the thought arise, how can I want to get to this depth? Of course I do. I don't want to be tossed about on the waves all the time. Sick and tired of it. And then, of course, comes the question for the method, the technique, the ritual, whatever one would like to have to get there. I don't have any method or technique for that, because this thing is here. In its fullness, or you can say in its emptiness, empty of me separation. That's what emptiness is all about. No separation through this big wave of me. Somebody said last night, no, I'm not talking about the big wave, they're just these little me waves. That's what one comes upon. Not the big global me, but the little me's, the little images. And well, I don't know about that. I have to look at that some more. If I feel hurt or become defensive, that's what we call me. Defenses in the service of what? What am I defending when I become defensive? You say something about me and no, it's not like this, you got it wrong, it's like that, or I did it because of this or that. What is being defended? Me. Yeah. Of course, it's not very... Me is a word, but what is it that is being defended when I get hurt? Can we ask that question and watch? At a moment like that, we may be least inclined to watch, because we want to defend. We want to convince the other person that they have the wrong idea of me. I'm not like what you think I am. I'm like this. Because I am attached to this idea of being like this. Not just attached, it's me, it's my existence. I think it's my existence. And that existence needs to be defended, just as though you were attacking me physically. I gotta hide or climb under a table or something. See, the me itself as such can never be visible, small or big, because it doesn't exist. It's reactions based on memories, based on conditioning, on trying to protect oneself. Having been hurt early on, all of us have been hurt early on. And that's lodged here. full of alarm systems. So all that we can come upon are the reactions of this illusory feeling of being someone separate. If we didn't have this, we would get along so well. If we didn't have this illusion of being separate, and therefore I know what I'm doing, and certainly you know what you're doing, and when you hurt me, you did it on purpose. You wanted to hurt me. You could have done differently had you only not wanted to hurt me, or whatever all the mind says. And by observing carefully how one responds, reacts, thinks, particularly in a retreat, one thinks and thinks and thinks and would love not to think, but where is this me now that it could control this? It can't control it. These thoughts come on their own and the reactions happen. That's how our meeting last night started. Somebody saying, a grief and pain arose in me, which I thought I was done with long ago. And here it was. How do I deal with it? See, the me doesn't want to be inundated with grief and pain. The me thought, I don't want this, we think. We don't like it. But it happens anyways. It comes up through memory, through association. Something triggers a memory, and that memory triggers grief and pain about a loss. And the question was, how to deal with it? Just to be with it? Well, what is it? What to be with what? And there is a misconception floating around in his mind that to be with something is to think more about it. To picture more the situation that was, that caused the pain, caused the grief. And the more thought occupies itself with the past scenario, what led up to this and the whole associative process, the more grief and pain, maybe some anger too. This shouldn't have happened to me. A sentence like that can cause anger or resentment. So, can we become very, very sensitive to how memories and comments that arise in the mind affect this body in ways the body doesn't like? To become cognizant of that, aware of it. May not initially or for a long time change much, but at least the process is permeated with a little bit of awareness. So false ideas go by the wayside. That I'm doing this to myself or somebody else is doing this to me. And one appreciates the automaticness, or you could at the same time call it spontaneity, of stimulus and reaction and more feelings and more thoughts and more reaction. No one doing it, it's happening. So, being with it does not mean to think more about it, with that conviction that these thoughts will eventually come to a solution or to an end. Try it out. I'm not trying to prevent anyone. And there are some things that are amenable to being thought through. But not these emotional things of memory and grief and pain. They're so intricately interwoven. So, What does it truly mean to be with something that comes up? Memory-wise and emotional trigger. And we went into this yesterday quite detailed. Just more thinking, looking at the conditioning with the conditioned mind, which is the thinking mind, the problem-solving mind, doesn't hack it. Is it possible to observe, listen, freely, openly? Not in order to get results, to get rid of this obnoxious feeling, to be done with it once for all. This is all not free, clear looking. It's our conditioned way of wanting something other than what is. But what is right now? Can that question bring some fresh energy? What is going on here? Let me look. And observing the play of memory and the response of pain and grief freely, without an axe to grind, with no goal in sight, no attitude. It's good, it's bad. How does pain feel when we don't think it's bad? Or grief? Have we ever even completely touched it? Spaciously. Spaciously meaning no space taken up by me and my preferences. But just what is this? Openly, spaciously. In the course of the meeting last night, someone said, and please, I do not remember verbatim what people say, but I sort of remember the gist of it. And the gist of that question was, are we coming here to just dwell on these conditioned things that happen to us, the pains, the problems? Or are we here to come into a larger context out of which all of this stuff springs? It was something like that, the person asked. And my question immediately was, what is this larger context? And I don't want philosophical, intellectual descriptions of it. Is it here? Is it operating right now? This larger context in which this talk happens, in which the topic happens, where we look at grief arising through memory, being with it, touching it. What is the larger context? And even though one can look at memory arising and the pain that is triggered, and what we've just been describing earlier, one can look at that, or hear it, feel it. But this larger context is nothing we can look at. It's not an object to be viewed by who? That's what we want. We want to grab wholeness or emptiness so we can own it, possess it, keep it, treasure it. But it's impossible. That isn't an object. Not a sense object. The only question we can ask is it operating right now? Is it the talking, the listening, the seeing? You get the question. There's a fan humming, but it's not the fan humming. It's the presence, non-separated presence, in which everything happens without becoming anything. You try to grab it, it's already gone. So, as we become so enmeshed in a problem of anger or pain, whatever all of our problems are, I can't even think of them right now. As we become so enmeshed and so tied up in it and then suffering from it, can there be a stopping? And when the stopping happens, there's already been some awareness that this is going on, this tied upness in a big knot, stopping and wondering what's going on. And then falling silent for a while. Not our habitual, immediately wanting to tackle it, to untie the knot or cut it with a knife. Fall silent, wonder about it, watch it. Let it do its thing in the presence of space. Which contains everything. Fan just stopped. The heart beating, can we hear it? Hear it spaciously? Not just say, oh, don't start with this heart again, I know my heart is beating. You've said this so many times. So what? It's beating. That's one way, one attitude. The other one is discovering it freshly. Not as the heartbeat, but something that's happening in space. Freely, uncontrolled. Together with the breathing and the sun coming through. So as someone was pointing out last night, our conditioned reflexes, reactions, the whole of it, the whole of conditioning. And the quietness, the silence of space, wholeness, are not two separate things. We would never be aware of conditioning if there wasn't that silent awareness that doesn't immediately judge or exclude or reject or grab. And we don't see anything real. So how quietly can we look and listen this moment of being here as we know not what? We will end here for today.